The Coast to Coast Entertainment Network would like to thank their proud sponsors for their support of C2C programming. Beside Me Bracelets, Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, Reaper Apparel Company, and Good Day Embroidery. The Elite Draft League would like to thank the following premier sponsors for their support of the inaugural 2024 EDL season: Craft Coast Brewery and Taco Stand, Play It Again Sports, Scripps Mira Mesa, The Answer's Yes, and Roller Dad News. Getting back in the saddle on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network for another edition of the Puck and Roll Podcast Season 1 at the halfway marker of the inaugural 2024 season, Episode 5, live here from San Diego, California, alongside Gabe, John, and welcoming in for the first time live on C2C is the commissioner of the Elite Draft League here in San Diego, Josh Fontaine. By the way, whenever the commissioner does join us, it's brought to you by his own firm, which is Wild Dog Marketing, who specializes in a multitude of facets, including cutting-edge digital strategy consulting, precision-targeted paid ad campaigns, and advanced tracking and data visualization services. Of course, Callan and McClurg also joining you folks here today as we get back on the horse here for this Sunday afternoon, August 11th, at the halfway marker of the inaugural season. Mr. John, good to see you again, my friend. How's it going today as we are now past the halfway mark of the inaugural season, my friend? Good to see you.
Oh, excellent to see you too, Callan. Josh, lovely as always, although we'll have to get back to that conversation on 30-plus shenanigans, but I'll see you at the rink then. But first thing I'm noticing here is I did not get the memo on putting your title on the subline. So seeing that,
it works.
Hopefully people don't, take too much, stock on what this edging is. It's not that big a deal.
It's aggressive. I love it. It's right there on the top line.
Right there.
Very aggressive, right. And he's a big fan of Adam Copeland, in case you're wondering if you're a wrestling fan out there. But again, we also, once more, folks, welcome in the commish himself. Josh Fontaine joins us for the first live get-together. Again, Josh and I had our first sit-down convo way back in May after tryouts. Commissioner Fontaine, great to see you as always, my friend. And halfway through the season, I'm sure things have been going well for you and the rest of our front office here between the three of us. But Josh, welcome aboard, man. Good to see you today. How's it going?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on, guys. This is a pleasure. I know this is not the first time y'all have had this podcast, but my first time on. So I'm excited to go and chop it up with you guys.
Again, folks, we'll have plenty of recaps from our past day of action. We'll kind of, again, hit the factory reset button to kind of catch you up up to speed. Again, we were away for roughly 3-4 weeks, again, due to both Gabe and John and the rest of our entire league partaking in huge tournaments up in Irvine via the North American Roller Hockey Championships, better known by all of us players as NARCH. Very big thing that happens here in Irvine, California. We have a big tournament coming to San Diego in about 2 weeks' time, August 23rd, the 23rd, 24th, and 25th in Escondido, California. So we'll kind of, in a way, circle back a little bit. We'll recap our games from this past Saturday and also kind of hold a little bit of a town hall / kind of would maybe in a way kind of somewhat call this a State of the League address almost in a way. Again, five games into the season, 5 more for the regular season, then, of course, into the postseason. For anyone who is joining us or watching live via Facebook or YouTube, again, your input is always encouraged. Again, drop us some commentary, some questions or comments in that chat box. We'll do our absolute best to ensure that commentary is read live on the air here today. We, folks, sadly, do not have any video footage today for you. We just have our graphics for you today when it boils down to the game recaps of 3 exciting games in Week 5 of the EDL season. We'll start things off, Gabe and Josh, with Temecula and Del Mar to kick off our games on Saturday. And the Vineyard Vipers snap their losing skid and get back on the winning ways, defeating Del Mar 9-4 on Saturday in our first game of the day. Wes Langlow had 4 goals, and a returning team captain, Matt Hamilton, back after a severe facial injury suffered before the season began. He comes back with 2 goals and an assist, and Jack Allen has 1 goal and 2 assists for the Vineyard Vipers, who snapped their 3-game skid, while Greg Andrews had a hat trick for Del Mar. Lars Eriksson, one of our proud partners with Craft Coast Beer and Tacos, 1 goal, 2 assists, while Jake Pribble and Colton Grover had assists in this game for Del Mar. And Gabe, this was a game that was tied, I believe, after the first half of play. Then Temecula just hit a whole nother level. 7 goals scored in that second period. Again, Wes having 4. Great as well to see Matt Hamilton get back as well after being away for multiple weeks of the season. He comes back with 2 goals and an assist. But Gabe, something though with this Temecula team this night alone in that second period maybe possibly got this ship back on the right track after, 3 losses, kind of close games over the past couple of weeks. Now, though, Del Mar, though, is probably here shaking their heads like, hot start to the season, and they have cooled off somewhat considerably over the past couple of weeks. But Gabe, takeaways, though, from game 1 on Saturday, Temecula snaps their their winless streak and puts up 7 goals in the second half to win 9-4.
Yeah, well, this was definitely the best game, the best full, 30-minute game that the Vipers have put up, in my opinion. It's so with that said, I don't think it can be understated just how pivotal it was to have Matt Hamilton back in their lineup, or not even back in their lineup, but into their lineup. This was his initial game of the season after coming off a nasty eye injury. So, knock on wood, and that nothing, is complicated from that. But it seems like, his vision is 20/20. He didn't put on a full bubble or a cage for the game, but he does have the half shield. But he looks stellar out there. Despite not being, playing for a number of weeks, he was really the defensive pillar that this team needed to keep things calm in the defensive zone and have more poise and control in the neutral zone, which just allowed them to be more patient with the puck and take advantage of odd man rushes when they did present themselves, instead of forcing, 1-on-2 situations or trying to be, super individualistic and focus on individual talent. They really, cycled through, used their team. And I think that really started from just the poise and control in the back end. So that was great. And then the next thing is you see there on that top line, Wes Langlo coming through with 4 goals. Wes is one of those players who, in my opinion, just elevates his game once he gets on that stat sheet. When he puts a puck in the net, he becomes a different animal out there, because we know that he's got an absolute cannon of a shot, quick release, and skill, with and without the puck. But when he's scoring, he gets into a rhythm and in a mode that's, makes him really lethal out there. And so going through a slump in the games prior to this, we didn't see him coming up on the stat sheet like this. So I expect now that he's got these 4 goals to come into next game with a lot more, rhythm and rip. So those are my takeaways. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think too, coming off this win for the Vipers.
Josh, we all have front row seats at every game at the Eskimo Sports Center. Again, I'm in the penalty box alongside, either Lucas or Desiree, who've been doing great jobs with our, stats. Gabe's running around a lot, but he's got a great spot. But I think you probably have the better seat, though, being on the scaffolding for the Instagram Live, streaming. And I think you probably saw a lot more intangibles with this Temecula team. Having Matt, simply, as Gabe said, Hamilton's presence back in the lineup adds a layer, especially when you have guys kind of moving in and out of the lineup again. Life happens, other events and stuff pop up where guys probably can't show up or would not be able to make a game, though. But simply, Hamilton's presence really seemed to almost reinvigorate this Temecula team, who didn't have Anthony Mata playing on Saturday. He was away at a different hockey event locally in town. So, Josh, maybe starting with the Vipers, simply adding Hamilton back in this equation stops their losing streak. Wes Langlo, man on a mission, 4 goals. Great goaltending as well in this game for Temecula. So, Josh, maybe from the broadcast perspective from Saturday, what did you notice differently from Temecula this week, maybe from last week, maybe away from Matt Hamilton returning after missing the last 5 to 6 weeks?
Yeah, not to belabor the point, but I think what we talked about was this Temecula team needed a vocal, emotional leader, and Matt Hamilton is that rock for that group. And I thought that he anchored them well. They seemed poised. They seemed composed with the puck. They weren't rushing. As soon as he got on the floor, it felt like a different vibe with that team. They seemed like they were going to control the game, and they did. The other point, too, that I wanted to make with Wes's 4-goal performance last night, he slides into a 3-way tie for the leading scorer in the league between Ray, Reed Kinsey, and himself. So that's interesting, too. Another guy that I wanted to point out, I think is kind of flown under the radar, obvious impact player, but now he's starting to show up in the stats in that top 5 stats position, is Jack Allen. So shout out to Jack Allen. He hustles every play. He creates turnovers, and he got a couple of really timely goals last. I think he had 1 goal and 2 assists. Yeah, they're on your graphic. But his 1 goal came at a perfect time where I felt like the game was hanging in the balance, and he made that momentum shift. But him creating turnovers, being energetic on the floor, that can't be emphasized enough, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's hard that you look to energy guys like a 6-man in basketball. You look to maybe the pinch hitter in baseball, or you have that line in hockey, ice or inline, who brings that energy, like that 3rd or 4th line that goes out there, who can bring, the hustle, some intensity, bring more to the table than some of the main other components can. Now, Gabe, as we kind of go to Del Mar here for a second as we wrap up our first game recap, team that looked pretty indestructible after the first 2 weeks again, but having Chuck Baldwin here for a bit and how we saw them play the first week or two, now they've been somewhat exposed, but nothing, I would say, too overly egregious. Again, Greg Andrews had a dynamite game last night, had a hat trick last night. Lars Eriksson having a 3-point game. Jake Pribble continues to be a force. Colton Grover is still getting on the stat sheet. So, I don't think I would really be too panicky 5 games in now with a 2-3 record for the Bandits, though. But certainly you can tell, though, that not having some pieces of the puzzle in place does take a little bit of their oomph out of, kind of out of the offensive attack, though. So, Gabe, maybe your thoughts, though, about seeing Del Mar faltering, but more importantly, Greg Andrews having a hat trick, though, in this game for Del Mar.
Well, before we talk too much about Del Mar, I do want to make a quick point on Josh's note on Jack Allen, because his goal was quite impressive, and it was a pure hockey goal. It was one of those classics where he shot and he followed up his rebound and he got the rebound and put it in. So it was definitely a high energy goal, a pivotal turn, and definitely worth calling out.
And I think that kind of in a way put the game further out of reach. Like Del Mar just kind of crept back a little bit, like 6-4, I think. And then that play happens, and that was kind of the backbreaker for Del Mar on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it fell up on the pecking order as far as goal number, but I remember the goal distinctly, and it was a beauty for sure. So definitely a good call out there. As far as the Bandits go, though, I mean, we know that, I wasn't super familiar with Chuck Baldwin's play before this summer, but as we approach halfway, and I'm sure looking back, in a number of weeks from now, we'll look back and see Chuck Baldwin as probably one of the bigger X factor components of this inaugural season. And rightly so. He's on a team. He plays professional hockey in Spain, and his team wins back-to-back championships. They're notorious for being the best team in that professional Spanish league. So, and it shows in his play. He's not super flashy, but he is super efficient and effective. So not having him in the lineup, because of course he was always meant to be a sub, to give him some time to play in his local town here in San Diego while he was back for the summer. Not having him in the lineup is a huge, impact. So I wouldn't say that the Bandits are floundering, but I do think that they need to, kick it into high gear, recognizing that he's not coming back to, play with them this summer. And, he's back in Spain, and they're going to have to rely on their core to commit to a full 30 minutes of play. Because once the Bandits were down by a few goals, there was some deflated play, some lethargic energy, not up and down the lineup, but they're going to need all of their key players to really commit to a full 30 minutes to compete against some of these teams that really want it.
Josh, I think Gabe is right that it's now next man up. That should be the 3-word slogan for Del Mar entering next week and then the following week after the next March break is that Gabe hit the nail on the head. Chuck Baldwin is probably, if not coming back this season. So you really can't have him be the fall, like he's not the fall guy for the offense now, where it's going to have to be next man up, like a Jake Pribble, a Lars Eriksson, Greg Anderson. Man was on a mission last night, having a hat trick on Saturday. But Josh, do you perhaps agree, though, that now it becomes almost for Del Mar next man up for the upcoming rest of the season?
I definitely, the void that Chuck Baldwin leaves is undeniable. He does so much so well on the rink. So not to take anything away from that, but a couple of stats to go and point out. Del Mar still has the most goals scored out of every other team in the league, even without Chuck for the last couple of games. So that is something to keep in mind. They don't have a problem putting the puck in the net. The issue has been turnovers. They need to tighten up on defense, and that's almost inexcusable given the roster that they have. They've got top-flight defensive talent with Colton, with Pribble, with Tanner Steffen, with a bunch of these guys that know how to play defense and keep the puck on the outside. They need to limit the turnovers, and the puck is floating to the middle of the rink for these prime shot locations from the opposing team, and they happen to be going in. So once they cut down on those mistakes, get a little bit more discipline, I think they'll be fine.
And Josh, I think you also just hit like the biggest one, like the biggest whack-a-mole on the whack-a-mole board. There were 2 or 3 pucks left in the Vipers zone, like on the de facto blue line, where no one came to rescue the puck for Del Mar, and wound up going all the way down the floor, and one of them happened to go in. So, miscommunication, just guys, as Gabe said, kind of being dejected or deflated by the score line. Like, turnovers will now kind of become like the next talking point probably for the Bandits going into week 6 coming up next Saturday. But once more, folks, the Temecula Vineyard Vipers snapped their skid with a 9-4 victory over Del Mar in game 1 of week 5 of the San Diego EDL season. As we now, gents, switch gears to the final game of the night. This game came down to the last minute plus of regulation time, but Ray Kinsey wins the game for North County over the Mission Bay Ospreys, who had been the hottest team in the league, having won 3 games in a row after a 0-1 start. North County edges Mission Bay 4-3, a very physical battle game that went all the way down to the final buzzer. Blake Woods, though, for North County, 2 goals and an assist. Ray Kinsey, as alluded to, 1 goal, which was the game winner for North County with 2 assists, and his brother Reed with 1 more goal to his tally. Joe Kubani started the scoring for Mission Bay, 1 goal, 1 assist, while Mike Rounds and Daniel Carlos, the clap man himself, scoring on the power play for Mission Bay. But again, they saw their 3-game win streak come to an end on Saturday evening. Gabe, physical play was on the menu here. We were ready for potentially an overtime finish. I had literally went and grabbed the rules for the overtime breakdown if we got there to announce to the crowd. But Ray Kinsey foiled those plans for our first ever OT game in league history. I will say, though, Gabe, these 2 teams, when they play, man, it's physical, it's a grinding game, and it usually comes down to something or a team pulling a rabbit out of the hat. But these 2 teams, when they play each other, man, it is high intensity, and, man, it is fun watching these 2 teams play each other night in and night out when they do face off.
Yeah, it really was. This game really had me on the edge of my seat. It was fast. Both teams were really vocal as well. I think the slight edge probably goes to the Surfers, who I give as being the most communicative team in the league right now, led by Reed Kinsey. You can hear his voice from the bench. You can hear him when he is skating. He is definitely leading through energy and speed and skill, but also very much a vocal presence. But the Ospreys as well, they're looking crisp. Some of their seam line passes were, stick to stick. There's been great chemistry between players like Noe and Jason Efforts and Joe Kubani. Joe's on the list, but some of those other guys, I'm marveling at some of the give and go plays that they're coming up with, halfway through the season. So they're really building chemistry, both these teams. And it was great to see not only the level of energy, but like you said, the level of compete going in. They're playing with speed. They're taking away each other's time on both sides of the rink. So this was one of the more exciting, not only league games, but just roller hockey games in general that I'd seen in a while. and it did come down to the wire. And you know it's an exciting game when the game-winning goal comes with like a stellar pump, which I really wish I captured, or one of us had to have captured it with some of the filming we were doing. But looking forward to seeing Ray Kinsey's game-winning goal celly, because you could feel the energy from the bench. And when you feel that kind of energy, you know that the players are excited and the games are exciting. So yeah, this was a fun one.
Josh, this was easily, I think we all would agree, the best game so far of the EDL inaugural campaign coming, and it comes in week 5, where it's speed versus speed. It's physical play. It's, penalties being taken. We had a incident in week 2, I believe, where Mike Rounds got into it with a player after the game had ended, but at the end it was all good. They made up, obviously. But this game felt like speed versus speed. It was Mission Bay's speed against the Kinsey and Blake Woods' speed. It was really, eye for eye all the way till like minute 50 to play when Ray Kinsey puts home the game winner. And also that Mission Bay was able to pull the goaltender and get a couple of like grade A chances, but just missed wide, or they were snuffed out by Jane Neal in the defensive core for North County. But Josh, probably easily the best game we've seen through 5 weeks was probably North County Mission Bay here in week 5.
Yeah, for sure. Piggybacking on Gabe's comment about Ray Selly, if there was a Mount Rushmore in roller for guys that know how to do a proper Selly, Ray Kinsey's on that Mount Rushmore. He's got to be. Like, if you go through the Narch photos through tournaments and stuff, there's at least a couple of photos of Ray just pulling off a cold Selly. So I love it. I'll go back through the game footage and see if I can pull that clip. These are two teams that were the only ones above 500, so they're battling hard. The big thing that I want to point out was Ray is known for high energy. He skates hard and he goes bar down. That's what he's known for. This game, though, he had a couple of more than a couple of really solid defensive plays. So I think his defense really shone, and I think that's what put the Surfers over the top. There was a couple of pucks where the Ospreys were coming into the zone. Ray stepped, got the stop, went the other way, and if he didn't score, he had a really good scoring opportunity. So shout out to Ray. I feel like he was an X factor this game in getting the dub.
I agree.
Go
ahead, Gabe. Go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, he was recognized as player of the game. Not only for the game-winning goal, but also for some of those plays that you were talking about. Definitely an X factor in his, clogging up the middle and just shifting momentum.
Yeah, there was one play that stood out to me. I believe right when the game was still tied, like maybe a few seconds or a minute before Ray wins the game. Mission Bay, I think the Ospreys had like a crisscrossing pattern going on, just getting across mid-floor. And Ray came out and challenged, knocked it away, winning clean on a breakaway. But Wyatt Beaupre made a kind of ridiculous save to keep the game tied. And honestly, both goalies, I think, Gabe, in this contest, both deserved an overtime win or an OT loss because they played out of their minds in this contest. And I think North County's goalie, Bryce Runyon, he made a couple of key saves at the very end of this game to keep North County ahead in the dying minutes and seconds of regulation time.
It's super true. And even with the goals that were scored, some of them were crisp passes to open guys and shots, but a number of the goals scored for both teams came on rebound opportunities where the goalies were making the initial saves and they just kept hammering away, which, was a testament not only to the goalies making those initial saves, but also just to the speed and the frenetic play from both teams, just staying on the puck, following up on opportunities and staying grinding. But yeah, both goalies absolutely played stellar. And, tying back into Ray, he had a number of grade A opportunities that he created for himself, but did not bury because of, being backstopped by Wyatt Beaupre in the goal, where the Ospreys did come up with a number of huge, even breakaway saves.
Josh, Gabe actually brought up this point, and I wanted to get to it, and it eluded me for a second, is that I could agree about the intensity level, the energy, and the vocalness of both these teams. Now, whether that was chirping at the opposition or giving Scotty Silvis and Lane a very difficult time with what was being called in this game. Again, we had, I think, 3 or 4 called penalties in this game but regardless, you really could feel that energy, and it really seemed like both teams fed off that energy in some way. Now, again, the scoreboard says North County fed off and more with them getting the 4-3 win. But I think, though, Josh, like I kind of said, though, like this game, or that whenever these two teams play, it brings out the best of everybody on both those rosters. And it's been great to see that we've already had this matchup twice already in the regular season thus far.
Yeah, the energy's palpable. It's, electric. You feel it in the air as soon as these guys, they finish warm-ups, they go to the center face-off circle, and it's like, oh boy, this is going to be fun. So wanted to also point out, I know we were giving Bryce Runyon his flowers. I also wanted to say, Bryce, you're a stud, dude. He's got 101 saves this season so far, total saves. The next closest guy has 82. So Bryce, his save percentage is pretty darn solid, but he's also at the top of the heap with 3 wins as well. So shout out to Bryce.
So will he be winning the Josh Fontaine Memorial Trophy for being the best goaltender in the league? Is that what you're getting at?
At this point, he's a very studly goalie, so I got to give him his props.
We got to come up with a couple of like off-season awards named after us front office members. That'd be pretty stellar. That'd be pretty good, honestly. That would be something. But again, North County over Mission Bay 4-3. Dynamic finish in this game, folks. Ray Kinsey, game-winning goal with about 1:50 to play in regulation time to create this mess of standings after 5 games. Wow. We got a 2-way tie or a tie for first place, and everyone else only 2 points back. So, Mr. Commish, we'll go to you first on this one as we look at the standings real quick, and we'll go to commercial break here in a second. But, Josh, 5 games in, you see the competitive nature of the league so far through 5 games. You see 2 teams tied for first place at 3-2, and the bottom 2 teams right now, though they're in the bottom, they are only 2 points back of first place. So already, Josh, it looks like the draft league status has really paid off after 5 games.
Yeah, the parity is something that was really important to me when we first started this. I know when Gabe and I, we sat down, we had a couple of stogies, and we're just like, all right, we want to do a kind of league at Escondido where we get as much of the top talent in one place as we can. And it's like, well, we can do one where we allow people to pick their own teams and it's like tournament style, or do we do a draft league approach and we try to go and keep it as even as possible with the competition? And I think that's just been more fun. And so far, as we've seen, we're pretty darn close in the standings, 3-2, 2-3. That's as close as I think we can statistically get with these 4 teams. So I'm really happy with the competition so far.
And Gabe, I think these standings really do speak volumes about, the parity level, but also I think it's also a good change of pace from what we know does go on in the hockey world, ice hockey or inline hockey. Everyone gets their friends to play, and, the talent may be here on one team, and then a team sandbags and gets a bunch of pros or, former East Coast League or AHL guys come in and play. Gabe, what would you probably say right now about where seeing the parity is after 5 games of the season?
Well, doing the draft style, team selection was a solid move. And even beyond the parity, I mean, the parity is one of the things that allows it to be so competitive and so fun. But even beyond that, we're still creating an atmosphere where players on different teams are hanging out. The lot before games is still strong. People between teams are hanging out before the 7:00 game. Players are many of them are watching the 8:00 game and cheering on the other players. So that's one of the other testaments to this league is even though they're, friends are maybe split up in ways that wouldn't normally take place when you're selecting your own teams. The community is so strong that everyone is still supporting one another. They're watching games, they're hanging out before and after. So the vibes are very much there. Plus the added bonus of like highly competitive games that we've already seen. So we've gotten feedback like, we look forward to this day more than any other night of the week when it comes to playing hockey, not only because it's fun Saturday night vibes, but also with that parity, they're really competitive games. So we've got the best of both worlds here.
We will, folks, step aside. When we do come back, Gabe and I will continue our conversation with our EDL founder and commissioner, Josh Fontaine, after this quick timeout and a quick word from our first batch of sponsors. You're watching Season 1 and Episode 5 of Puck and Roll right here on C2C. We're back in 45 seconds. Don't go away. The Elite Draft League would like to thank the following sponsors for their support of the inaugural 2024 EDL season. The Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, Hockey Night Insider, R&R Productions, and Wild Dog Marketing. We roll on Puck and Roll Season 1, Episode 5, a special edition of the program, being joined by the League Commissioner's Office and the League Commissioner himself, Josh Fontaine. Again, our sit-down interviews live on air with Commissioner Fontaine are brought to you by his marketing firm, Wild Dog Marketing. Find out more by searching Wild Dog Marketing or finding them on your favorite social platforms, and Josh will take care of you from there. Again, Josh, we have talked, we talked a bit, though, in the last part of the segment as we kind of got through our recaps of week 5, and we were kind of talking about the standings again, how we got 2 teams who are 3-2. We've got 2 teams 2-3, but everyone is still right there fighting for, potentially, a de facto home playoff game so far in the upcoming postseason. But Josh, maybe halfway through the season, again, 5 games in, again, we've been away for, we were away for about 3 weeks roughly due to Narch, due to a Narch tournament up in Irvine, California. But Josh, about 5 weeks into the season, 5 more to go for the regular season, then of course the postseason. Josh, so far, maybe give like a quick update on whereabouts you see the league being right now after 5 weeks of regular season play.
Yeah, I think we're right where we want to be. I think it would be concerning if we had a team that hadn't won a game yet. I would be worried in the opposite way if we had a team that had won every game. They were just dominating. I think that goes back to what we were talking about before the break. The parity was something that was important. That was a facet that I felt like we needed to employ to make sure that everyone had fun. It was competitive. That made the league viable. But looking at the standings, just kind of as that gut check, you've got 4 teams and everyone's either 3-2 or 2-3. And the goal differential is, in a good margin of error. So it seems healthy. Everyone's got about the same number of goals for. So if people are putting the puck in the net, everyone has fun when they're scoring. So if pucks are going in the net at about the same clip, that's a good place to be.
Yeah, it's always good though when that is when that's a thing where like everyone's kind of even. Yeah, you may have one team who's put the puck in a few more times and all that sort of stuff. And I would say as well though, Josh, is Gabe and I touched base on something after the first week that we played, and I still have kept this picture that Gabe got during the first ever game that we hosted at the Escondido Sports Center, of seeing some familiar faces, the Hoffman family, who we have seen so many times playing on the West Rink during our games, family and friends, people in the local community, player spouses and girlfriends coming out. And I've always have kept this picture in here on our StreamYard account for Puck and Roll, is that this is a good reminder of not necessarily where we started, but more like this is what we kind of want, or what we have wanted the sport of inline hockey to have in San Diego, where, again, as I've been saying for a long time, this is something that I have truly believed that anyone who's in hockey in San Diego, whether you're an inline player or an ice player, you can be proud of what's being built here after 5 weeks. And maybe, Josh, can you talk about kind of seeing how the stands have been, somewhat filled? I know the first week was one thing, but even now we're still getting a pretty good, solid core of people who've been coming out to watch EDL games on Saturday nights.
Yeah, I think you need to stick to your core values. And I think when we first set out to start this experiment, was we wanted to get the product right. So we make it fun for players, make sure that they're enjoying it. The things that matter to them is that their stats are tracked. There's highlights of them scoring goals. They get sweet uniforms. And I wanted to stick the landing on that thing. And I felt like we have. So far, so good. You and Gabe have done a fantastic job of creating the content, and that pulls players in. When the players are having fun, they're telling their friends and family, hey, we're having a killer time. Come and watch. if we don't stick the landing for the players and they're not having a good time, I don't think the word is going to spread organically. It's something that I've kind of hung my hat on. It's like we get the core thing right, then I think the rest of it will take care of itself.
Again, folks, we are privileged to be joined today by Commissioner Josh Fontaine of the Elite Draft League here on Season 1, Episode 5 of Puck and Roll. Again, Josh's appearances on Puck and Roll are brought to you by Wild Dog Marketing, founded by Josh himself. Again, find them on the web, and Josh will help you take your company to the next level. Gabe, I'm going to pass the puck over to you to maybe ask Josh a couple of things here, because I think that we all have, obviously, talked a lot about, after games about, what we could do or what we can do or what we're trying to do. But Gabe, go ahead and send a question over to Mr. Commish.
Send a question over to Mr. Commish. Wow. Put on the spot. Well, I guess some of the things that come to mind, I know you don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but things like length of games, or, let's just start with that one. I was a proponent for having 2 17-minute stop clocks to just push it right over that 30-minute mark. I know we're following also we're trying to stay consistent with other draft leagues in the local area to keep it copacetic, as you like to say. But what are your thoughts on the game time itself? Do you think the lengths are good? They're a little bit too short, a little bit too long, or right there in the middle?
Yeah, I think there was a couple of things that went into this process, and you and I have obviously noodled off air on this quite a bit. One was I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We already have Dan Maxwell and his very successful draft league up in Irvine. The ultimate intention, going and pulling behind the curtain a little bit, is to have some inter-league play. So having the players from both leagues familiar with that format already, with 2 15-minute halves, that was kind of nice. Now, I felt like 2 15-minute run clocks, that's way too fast, especially for the investment these players are making. So we added the stop clock facet to make sure they get every second of play time that they came to play. The other thing was the time of year that it was. I felt like it's very hot outside. We have a covered area. We're not in direct sunlight, but it's still July, August, and even into September. It's going to be hot. So adding another, whole period onto that, I don't want my players passing out, because we see the level of effort these guys are putting into it. I don't want any heat-related injuries, if you will. So certainly open to going and making sure that we give the best experience possible. And maybe that includes adding a period and increasing the time per period, something like that. We're always open to going back, to the whiteboard for next season. So yeah, great question.
I hear you say increasing the time per period and increasing periods. Gosh, that is some good news.
Yeah, because I think Gabe and I have been noodling about, do we go to like 3 periods where everyone knows that hockey is a 3-period game, but obviously inline is more of a different animal. I recall playing when I was playing inline way back in the day at the Mission Valley Y. I think we played like college basketball. I think we played 2 20-minute run clock halves, but it would stop in the final minute of play each half. And we're also playing on concrete. And even in the wintertime, it was still pretty warm playing on that surface. And Josh, I'm glad you brought up, though, about the conditions that we have been having here locally in town. Is that you and I literally left my house here in the city, and it was 77 degrees. We go through our pregame regiment, though, of grabbing lunch and stocking up on water and postgame beer and getting to the rink to begin setting up shop. The temperature jumps from 77 to like 90 just in a 25-minute drive from the city up to Escondido. And I think that, there may be, shade and a roof over the rinks, but you can still feel that heat radiating in, though. And I think that keeping it where it's at right now with the 2 15-minute halves is good, but also it's kind of like clockwork. You get that first game going, they're done. We have, a little brief intermission. I mean, I think guys, we have gotten out of Kit Carson, done with everything and breaking down equipment by 9:30 since opening week. So Josh, like, maybe how important is it, though, to kind of, keep that going where it's like it's a consistent pace of you get in, we set up, we got game 1, they get done, we bring the next game on, but kind of in a way keeping people engaged, though, all the way till about 9:30, and you're still going to get home at a decent time on a Saturday night.
Yeah, and we've got the rink booked for, and that's something that the Escondido Sports Center has been wonderful about. They've been very flexible. They've been accommodating. Their summer programming at the facility is, not too busy. So for us to go and figure out the exact amount of time that we have to book, that's actually helped with our cost, our operating costs for booking the facility, for booking the rinks. So that's nice that we can get in and out of there with the play time at about 2 hours flat. So that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's huge, though, especially when people who are trying to find their hockey niche or fix over the summer, where there's no real, there's no games until October when the American Hockey League season begins. But maybe they want to come watch friends play. I know that what I've been advertising, I write in free admission. Like you can literally come, grab a seat in the bleachers and watch, 2 games for literally $0.00. Bring your own food, bring your own drinks, and watch some top flight competition. Maybe if you're also new to inline, maybe maybe this is more of a ice hockey crowd who's come through and things like that. And I also think as well, though, Josh, is I would even think as well about something that we have kind of discussed, like, in the lot, the post-game lot is always nice, but trying, though, as we have talked and all three of us have in inner circles, is trying to establish a inline hockey pipeline. I think that I've said it on here. We've said it in meetings before the year began about, sadly, how shallow that the talent pool for inline is, even in San Diego County. I mean, you would have to go to Irvine, West Covina to really find more, I wouldn't say established, but more players who probably play but aren't necessarily within our county lines, basically, or county limits. So, Josh, how important, though, could the EDL in San Diego be to somewhat begin fostering or building the foundation to kind of get inline hockey kind of back on people's radars, here in San Diego County as the years do, in fact, go on and as we roll on through the last half of the regular season here in 2024?
Yeah, I think it's important to go and show what roller hockey can be at your local facility, whether it's roller hockey, it's baseball, it's soccer, whatever sport means the most to you. You see what a polished version of that sport can be, and that inspires little kids. You see that they see the cool jerseys, they see the bright colors, they see the players moving really fast and taking slap shots, going bar down. That's fun. So that inspires. And Gabe and I have talked about the things that have gotten us into hockey, when we're 5, 6 years old to where we are now. It shows you what's possible, what you can do. And we're not the best of the best by any means, but we've tried really darn hard. But that inspiration for younger kids that are trying to figure out their sport, the thing that they want to do, I think that's important. You have to show them what the possibilities look like, the range of outcomes. But you have to go and start from. You can't just go from I want to play this sport, jumping right into the top level of competition.
For sure.
So you inspire, and then you have to go and actually show them how to play the sport. That includes learn to skate programs, learn to play programs, clinics. And then you push them into leagues. That way they're equipped to understand and enjoy the sport and, go as far with it as they want to. And not everyone has to go and play tournament level hockey or, AAA, what have you. Maybe you just play at a level that means the most to you.
And for example, folks, Gabe and Josh play, at the Escondido Sports Center, Kit Carson Park, in their Sunday leagues, their Tuesday leagues. And more importantly, I think, though, as well, though, Mr. Commish, is that, again, we had a built-in 2-week break in July. We have one more built-in break coming up later this month in August due to the North American Roller Hockey Championships, better known as NARCH, who is a sponsor of the show. They're a sponsor of the EDL. And I think, Josh, for people who are getting into the sport, again, coming across the show for the first time, NARCH is mainly like a tournament that really happens every so often. But Josh, if you can maybe further explain exactly what NARCH is to, again, new people tuning in or those getting involved with the sport, though, and that they do a lot of great things, though, out here on the West Coast for the sport of inline hockey.
Yeah, Narch and Pacific Cup and SD Inline are all owned and managed by Darren Goodwin, and he's been tremendously supportive of what I've done here with the Elite Draft League in San Diego. He's made some key introductions. He's helped me with my network to make sure that this gets off the ground. So thank you, Darren. The other thing that he does for the local community is he does facilitate SD Inline, which is the middle school, high school program that plays at my background image here from my camera at Kit Carson at the Escondido Sports Center. So he's been managing that for a while. What I would like to do, I would love to go and help and do a learn to skate program to keep those programs growing. But Narch specifically, what he's done with that is he's put roller hockey on a national, international platform. If you go on their social media accounts, he has a gigantic, ginormous following. It's much bigger than any other tournament series that's out there right now, whether it's State Wars tours, and they run fantastic programs as well. But Narch specifically, they're the biggest one, and they're up on that pedestal. They are the biggest player, and they do a great job of bringing attention to roller hockey, getting the best of the best for their Narch Pro. They do an excellent job of presenting that. I feel like this Narch Pro this past season, and let's see, last month in July, that might have been one of the best Narch Pro tournaments I've seen in a while. It was so much fun. Not to mention our own Chuck Baldwin scoring 8 goals in one game, just lighting it up. So super entertaining. Narch does a great job of highlighting the best parts of roller hockey today.
And I think vastly important tours, State Wars, you name them, that all of these leagues or all these tournaments, rolled around. And again, as we just updated our ticker tape, but again, folks, the Narch Pacific Cup is coming to San Diego at our home rink behind Josh in his background with some very tall host of his podcast, willing and dealing out there before we got gameplay last time out. But that will be August 23rd, 24th, and 25th at the Escondido Sports Center. As again, folks, we are joined by Josh Fontaine, the San Diego EDL commissioner. Gabe, I'll let you have the floor for maybe one more question before we duck out of here for a quick break and we wrap this up here in a few minutes.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that the league thus far has been a success and will likely continue to be a success. So with that said, we obviously want more players to come out to the evaluation skate and take part in future EDL leagues here in the San Diego area. If we had, what is the, most amount of teams that you'd want to add for a second season to maintain quality, but also grow?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think we've already started those conversations. One of the conversations I've already begun is talking with our partner Hot Hockey and Brian Arguello. He does a tremendous job with design, turnaround times. I don't think there's anyone better right now in Southern California, I would even say nationally, that does all of this at a really cost-effective price. So Brian Arguello, shout out to him. He's been an integral part of this process of getting our uniforms designed and made. So I've already talked to Brian that I would love to continue our partnership from a uniform perspective heading into next season. And that includes adding 2 teams. So that would put us at a 6-team upper limit potentially for next season. There's obviously going to be some pants and jerseys we replace for next season just from wear and tear. It's the hazard of it. Hockey's a physical sport. But that's the vision for next season. I think there's a couple of different steps that we're going to go in, and you're going to see these announcements coming out here soon. Is once we get towards the end of this season, we're going to start gearing up for to find out what interest is for the season of 2025. I forgot what year it was. So getting an interest form out there to be like, hey, you participated in this. Are you going to play next season? And that's also going to be soliciting new players to be like, hey, you missed out. Would you play if the dates were in this range? That's a good place to start. Then the next is to actually go and put dates out there for the evaluation skate. Step 3, you have a season start date. And we're going to go and fine tune the number of games, the number of teams, all of that. But it's really dependent on the feedback that we get from the interested players.
And I guess, Josh, one closing question before we go to break and wrap up the program for today is, league expansion. We kind of, threw some ideas out on the way home from the rink yesterday. We talked about, 2 teams, 4 teams. what kind of branding or is it going to be like all San Diego themed again? Things like that. But also more importantly, though, Josh, is, kind of, the talk of the like interleague play, like Major League Baseball between San Diego EDL and the Roller League or the other elite draft league up in Orange County. That'd be amazing. But also I was, kind of also pondering is that, or not pondering, but also there's something on the line when the season gets to the final game for all the marbles. Josh, can you also laminate about where we are at right now? As I know one of our corporate partners has thrown some money into a giant prize pool for whoever wins the championship this upcoming season.
Yeah, our sponsor, The Answer is Yes, has generously committed $1,000 to the prize pool to the winning team. So that's something that gives people to fight for. I know we've already seen a high level of energy between these teams in the regular season, but hopefully that gets ratcheted up a couple more levels whenever there's cash that's on the line. But as far as, jog my memory, what was your previous question?
Mainly about what's on the line in regards to the prize pool, but like what's the trophy look like? Like what do we have going on for the league champs in 2024 for the inaugural campaign?
That's something I'm super excited about. So one, I feel like league MVP trophy is always like, it's not as cool as it could be. So one of the things I thought would be super rad is we get a wrestling style belt for the league MVP. So they get to throw that over their shoulder. They get to be, channel their inner Stone Cold Steve Austin that they've always wanted to with the championship belt. And then the trophy, the chalice that we have right now, it's actually currently in design. I'm going to be sending you guys some examples. So I'm really stoked about that. I put a lot of thought into this. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be something when the players see it, they're like, oh, that's cool. I want to go and battle for that.
Yeah. I mean, you put something on the line and you get guys who are competitive, and we've seen it through 5 weeks. They're definitely going for it all. We'll take our last break, folks, and we'll come back with some closing thoughts for week 5 and get ready to preview and talk a little bit about week 6, and then close up shop for the afternoon. Puck and Roll rolls on after this. The Elite Draft League would like to thank the following sponsors for their support of the inaugural 2024 EDL season. Hot Hockey, Biscuit Balm, the North American Roller Hockey Championships, the Roller Hockey Alliance, and Dangle Dojo. All right, let's wrap up our 5th episode of Puck and Roll alongside Gabe John and our league commissioner, Josh Fontaine. Again, the commissioner coming on the program is brought to you by Wild Dog Marketing. Callan McClurg back with you folks here. Again, guys, a great night of action on this past Saturday, August 10th. 5 games down, 5 more to go for the regular season. Week 6 action coming up on August 17th is going to feature Del Mar and North County, and Mission Bay and Temecula, the late night game next Saturday evening. For those of you wondering, again, drop on by Kit Carson Park next Saturday to watch the EDL back in action next Saturday. With that in mind, Gabe, great program. Glad to have Josh jump on board. And I will quickly say, folks, that Josh and I, again, were talking extensively on our drive home last night. After tonight, when we do, in fact, come back following the Pacific Cup break, expect the unexpected with Puck and Roll. We're going to be beginning, folks, to doing this program remotely live from different places around the county. Notably, we reached out to our good man, Lars Erickson, and Craft Coast Brewery and Taco Stand, one of our league partners. And we're trying to kind of, in a way, do more in-person episodes coming up following our break for the Pacific Cup in 2 weeks' time. We tried to do that this week, but it really didn't come to fruition. Here today, we came on half an hour earlier, though, to accommodate Gabe and Josh getting out to their men's league game at Kit Carson this evening. But expect, though, folks, a little bit of a change when we do, in fact, come back after our next break in our program scheduling. Again, due to me working Sundays again with the college athletics season underway, and also with Pacific Cup. I am going to attempt and try. We'll see what we can do. But my goal, though, next during Pac Cup is to probably do a Sunday episode or an episode from Kit Carson on site. We'll see if we can actually make that work logistically. We'll see what comes out of it. But we are going to be tweaking our format again to more in person between the three of us, and maybe we'll get some of the guys who are in our league team player-wise to come on and also join us for a couple of minute brief interviews as well. So look for a whole new radical change to Puck and Roll in a couple of weeks. With that in mind, though, Gabe, as mentioned, though, buddy, great weekend of action once more, and we go into another week coming up on next Saturday. But Mr. John, any final thoughts to pass along for today's program?
Well, it's been a great 5 weeks thus far, weeks of gameplay, and looking forward to the next 5 weeks, and super excited by the prospect of potentially next season having what sounds to be like maybe the opportunity to have 6 teams and 3 17-minute periods. So all things to circle back on as we continue to let this journey ride out.
Now, I'm all in for interleague play. I'd love to see like AL versus NL work out here between San Diego EDL versus the Irvine and Orange County based EDL. That'd be like a cool little thing. Hey, who knows? Maybe we can do a league all-star game. I mean, honestly, who says no? Even putting doing that would even be great idea to have at the very end of a show. But once again, folks, League Commissioner Josh Fontaine joined us here on Puck and Roll. Again, Josh's appearances here on Puck and Roll are brought to you by his marketing firm, Wild Dog Marketing. Again, Josh, great to have you aboard for the first live time here again, being able to recap the games, but also, again, kind of see, though, where the league is at. Again, very great for the first 5 weeks. Again, we all obviously here on this platform, again, have a lot of great ideas when it comes to, league expansion, the interleague play format, Gabe wanting the extra period to be played eventually as time goes on. But certainly, though, Josh, again, thanks a lot, man, for coming on. And hey, we look forward to starting to do this more and more often and more remotely, though, and hopefully getting some of the players to come out on a Sunday and, chop it up for about 10, 15 minutes at a time.
Absolutely. We've got some great personalities in the league, so it'd be fun to have some of those guys on. I'm sure you can name some names. AJ Wright is top of mind. Absolute beauty. Ray Kinsey. Some of the guys you love to see in the player shorts that have great answers. So that would be fun to have those guys on in person too.
Yeah, speaking of players, Gabe has been a busy bee when he's come to the rink to when he first gets there. I mean, he sets up shop and then he is out running around. I would love this one day, Gabe. I'd love to see your step count on your phone's health app, because I mean, every time I turn around, you are like doing laps like you're Lightning McQueen around the racetrack trying to win the Piston Cup. But Gabe, again, you've been getting some great content. What can fans right now view on the social platforms that you have pumped out for content, and even as well the latest recap on the league website?
Yeah, so on a weekly basis, we'll be putting out the weekend reviews. So we do player of the game interviews in a post-game fashion. So this upcoming week from Wednesday, you'll be able to see the weekend review as well as the post-game interviews on our website, elitedraftleaguesd.com, as well as continuous, push of, engaging content from gameplay footage from the GoPros to the snappy player answers that we have on the player shorts, all coming out on our Instagram handle, which is at Elite Draft League SD right there on the screen, as you see in the bottom right hand.
Yes, right in between the Coast to Coast logo and Wild Dog Marketing's logo in our 3-person layout. Again, Josh Fontaine joining us today. Our league commissioner's interview is brought to you by Wild Dog Marketing, as we have been alluding to throughout the course of our program here today. But again, folks, we are back with you with games next Saturday. Again, we're going to try to pull off a show in 2 weeks at the Pacific Cup up in Escondido. Again, we can probably wrangle Gabe and Josh for maybe a post-tournament victory for their squad in 2 weeks. In case you folks were wondering, they came in 3rd at the latest and greatest Narch tournament up in Irvine, California a couple of weeks ago. And now to the top we go, boys. Got to get to the top now, and especially in your own backyard. We got to get you guys on top here in 2 weeks. With that, though, folks, in mind, great to be back with you folks here today on Puck and Roll. For Gabe John and Josh Fontaine, and for yours truly, Cal McClurg, and for all of us, we are the entire EDL front office. We'll chat with you folks in 2 weeks from Pacific Cup in Escondido, California. Till next time, folks, have a great day and a great week. And we'll see you next time. Till then, bye-bye. The Elite Draft League would once again like to thank the following sponsors for their unwavering support of the inaugural 2024 EDL season. Craft Coast Brewery and Taco Stand. Play It Again Sports Scripts Mira Mesa. The Answer's Yes. Roller Dad News. The Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. Hockey Night Insider. R&R Productions. Wild Dog Marketing. H3 Hockey. Biscuit Balm. The North American Roller Hockey Championships. The Roller Hockey Alliance. And Dangle Dojo. The Coast to Coast Entertainment Network would like to thank their proud sponsors for their support of C2C programming. Beside Me Bracelets. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. Reaper Apparel Company. And Good Day Embroidery.